there is not too much of hierarchy. There is not too much of hierarchy in the secondary steel ownership, like the factories producing. So the decision-making people are available to us. The decision-making people are contactable, approachable. And as we discussed yesterday, dynamic pricing, prices change quite a lot. So here you get the advantage of, repricing when you understand that, no, my product is not viable. Immediately, the entrepreneurs of the secondary steel segment, manufacturers, are aware that the price is not viable. So there is help available in terms of pricing. These two factors are very important, which help us in concluding deals for exports of the secondary steel segment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking up this question. My next question is for Mr. Smith Shah from Monosteel. So what are some of the potential risks and uncertainties that the secondary steel sector should be aware of in its exports and marketing endeavors?
Thank you, Pratik ji. So talking about the risks and uncertainties in export market, first is the payment security. Everyone wants the payment to be safe. And this thing in India, there are some banks which are a little bit inferior. Like the payment system we have here is a little inferior to the international competitors and the players. LC discounting and LC acceptance, we have a very long process, and acceptance is not an easy process. Other banks directly can get their LC discounted without acceptance. So this is pre-performance, yes. So this is a hurdle. Then the next hurdle which we face is of freight. Freight is a very big hurdle when we are exporting. There is a shortage of containers. Then there are certain shipping lines which behave like mafia, as we all know. And there is also fuel surcharge and everything in bulk containers. So this is a main issue. And other thing which we see is the change in policy. Like today we are exporting and suddenly there is a change in policy which implements from the next day. So this is not a proper channel. Like if we are changing some policy, at least give us some time window to implement the same thing, which gives a little bit buffer for everyone to suffer in this market. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So the implementation of export duty in a very short span of time and other such policies, there should be sufficient time for you to take.
Exactly.
This small window which was given for the exports duty last year which came proved very difficult for exporters. Whether it was secondary or primary, mainly secondary, because secondary steel exports are not usually against LCs. And at that time, the government said that they would honor only those LCs which were issued before this policy was announced. So it was a really difficult time for us.
Okay. Thank you, sir. My next question is towards Ushmesh ji. Sir, how can digital marketing and e-commerce platforms be utilized by secondary steel sector in India to expand its reach? And what are the key factors to consider when selecting an e-marketplace?
Right now, e-commerce is booming, and many manufacturers are selling their products as a commodity on many e-commerce platforms. Right now, there are very few e-commerce platforms such as Off Business and L&T Sufin, and many few, like very few export platforms are available right now. But according to me, a steel bar or a TMT bar is purchased only by look and feel. Like a customer likes to see the product because he is building his house on that structure. So as far as projects are concerned, I think the e-commerce platform is a valid thing or is relevant. But as far as retail sale is concerned, I don't think e-commerce platform can replace retail. Now, only e-commerce platform can sustain if they allow branding, like, for example, Make My Trip. In Make My Trip or bookings.com or like these kind of hoteling services, they provide you the configuration of the hotel, like what kind of room you are booking and which brand hotel you are booking. You don't only buy a bed or you don't only get a room. So in that way, if an export platform, if a e-commerce platform is made, which allows each and every brand to place its product and sell it accordingly, that will be very useful for us.
Thank you, Ushmesh Ji, for giving perspective on e-marketplace. My next question is directed towards Mr. Yash Goyal from Kalika Steel. Yash Ji, what are some potential strategies that the secondary steel sector can adopt to differentiate itself and build a strong brand image in the market?
To build a brand image in the market for secondary steel sector, first we have a very quick response to the demand of the customers. We see what customers are asking, and in secondary steel sector we are very accessible to them to know their problems, and we change to that. Our strategy changes to their problems actually. And second, as we are accessible, we actually customize and give them products. As you can see, we have different grades for different brands. Actually, we have 500 strength also, 550 also. We have 500D, 550D. Now, most of the brands are making CRS also. This is customers' demand, which primary sector is not very accessible. So they are not listening to the demand of the customers, which secondary steel is doing. And this is the strategies we are using. And the second strategies which we want to use in the future will be as it was there in the first session, that the name secondary is like the customers, when they listen the name secondary steel, they don't have confidence in the quality of our product, which is not acceptable to us. So I'm very thankful to Yogesh Uncle and IFA that they have taken an initiative to change the name, which we will be doing after this event with the help of Ministry of Steel. That is a very good initiative. And second, Yogesh Uncle also said yesterday that government should imply the infra companies to at least use 15 to 20% products from secondary steel, which will help us to make more, more strategies, so that more growth is there in the secondary steel sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashi. My next question is for Mr. Akshat Goyal from Amba Shakti Steels. Sir, how does market analysis help companies in the secondary steel sector understand customer needs and preferences? And how do companies conduct marketing research and analyze data to make informed decisions in the secondary steel sector?
So I think market analysis is very important for the future of, if we're calling it, secondary steel industry, because this is feedback for us. How do we know what the customer wants? So steel is a commodity. It is very hard to distinguish, if it is a good quality steel or a bad quality steel. You need to update yourself. You need to innovate constantly. And how do you know if what you're innovating, if what you're spending your money on is actually going to be accepted by the market? Whether they'll be ready to pay for it or not. So this we can only get to know through the feedback of the market. Say, for example, they want cheaper steel, or are they looking to pay a premium for a coated steel? Or as someone mentioned over here, 550D quality or CRS steel, are they even ready to pay that much for the coated steel or some other grades of steel? So once we get feedback from the market, it'll be easier for every company to innovate and innovate in the right direction. And they'll also feel secure in spending that amount of money, knowing that the innovation is going to get them something back in return. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My next question is for Mr. Shabir Soni. Sir, how has the Indian government Make in India initiative impacted the exports of the secondary steel sector?
The Make in India has really proven beneficial to us. More than Make in India, I would say our Prime Minister's vision Firstly, if you see the earlier days, we were exporting billets only. But then we came on to wire rods and rebars also. So this, to some extent, is the Make in India policy. We have started adding value to our material. From billets, we moved to rebars, wire rods. But more than that, I would say Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to US just now, where he has assured that he will abolish that additional duty that was placed on the rebars from India. I think, not rebar, steel products from India. I think that will prove more beneficial to us. So it's in all his efforts which are helping us for exports. His vision also. His vision for exports is also, making us aggressive in exporting secondary steel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for throwing light on this topic. My next question is for Mr. Smith Shah. Sir, in the context of the increasing global competition, you can see that China is also facing difficulty. They are having the major share, still they are facing difficulty. How can the secondary steel sector in India maintain its position as a competitive player in international market?
Thank you, Pratik ji. I would like to say that India is on a growth path and we are aiming for a 300 million ton production. So to achieve that, the material should be exported. And for that export is very much required. And that's why India has to be competitive in international market. So for that, one thing or suggestion it would be that we should deal with the countries who have foreign trade agreements with India. So free trade agreements with India. So that will be a very easy thing. The government is having some agreements with them, some benefits with them. The plants and the secondary steel plants have advantage for that. So that is a good way to move ahead. For example, South Korea. As well as there should be an additional export incentive which was previously there, but then it was withdrawn. So what we should suggest is billet or TMT or any other steel product should be added to the list which is the RODTEP. So on that remission and that list, the steel product should be added. So that benefit can be passed on to the secondary market because somehow the additional production which we are aiming needs to be exported and then only we can achieve the great targets and compete with China. And the last thing which I would like to add would be China has a disadvantage of freight on the western side and India has an advantage, like from the Kandla port or Mundra port we can easily export to west coast of Africa, whereas China has to go all the way round and they have a freight disadvantage. So we can aim such countries and increase our exports in this way. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We would have to locate our markets, understanding that China is too aggressive in pricing and we cannot match sometimes the price that China is offering. But at that same time, we have certain locations where we can be aggressive in pricing in terms of freight, where we have a freight advantage. And adding steel to RODTEP would really be beneficial. Because when we are coming up with so much of tonnage, additional tonnage, we need some incentive from the government side to also export. And see, putting efforts from our side is one part. On the government side, helping us, adding steel to RODTEP would really be beneficial to us.
Thank you, Smith ji and Shabesh ji. My next question is for Mr. Yogesh Mandhani. Sir, how can we create marketplace for secondary steel sector?
Okay. So strategically speaking, we have two types of domain. One is an export domain and other is the indigenous domestic market for us. So export, okay, there are a lot of challenges, as well said by Shabir Bhai, China compete and all the quality factors. But very closely we should now focus on, if we are focusing, we can focus on the market which is the domestic market. Now again in the domestic market we have two types of domain. One is like where we are very strong, where our steel goes and we are marketing. That domain we are very strong. But the other domain where other, I don't want to actually make again a classification, but yeah, the primary sector, where they are the strong. So we need to focus on how it should be collective measure, how the quality of our steel, how the pricing and every factor which helps in getting into that domain has to be taken into consideration. I firmly believe that the young team who are the next generations coming into the steel, we can crack this and we can enter that domain. So it's the easiest way to get the bigger market for us as far as our steel is concerned. Now, there may be a lot of challenges, but again, one thing I really want to, as per my experience, I want to say that if we have a third-party measure, Yash, what you said was how it can be taken up. So if we have a third-party measure, maybe it may be associations, it may be an institute, it may be a IITs and all the IIT and IIMs and all this, wherein their voice or their concerns can be addressed, and if they suggest to the bigger domain that yeah, we have this sector doing very good with the technology, with the automation, with the value addition, and if they suggest, that is called a third, we call it as a indirect marketing. So that has to be brought into the real picture of getting into the marketing. So this will help. Collectively it will help, but the major beneficiary would be our sector. And I really suggest that a young team should come up with a group for this collective marketing wherein they can represent, show the papers, documentize and have a plant visits to this all, say, the governing bodies who can help us in doing the good marketing. So this is the easiest way wherein we can immediately get into the market. And next, then we can think of exports and other factors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving your valuable inputs on making e-marketplace or marketplace for the secondary steel sector. My next question is a further extension of this question only, and this is directed towards Mr. Yash Goel from Kalika Steel. Yashji, how do logistics play a crucial role in the marketing and distribution of secondary steel products?
As we saw in the slides for the marketing presentation, logistics has almost, it plays a major role in secondary steel market actually. And if you see the cost of logistics, it compromises around 5% of the cost of the product, steel product. And we had a survey actually, we did a survey for the turnaround time, which we call TAD. If you see for logistics in secondary steel market, it is only 5 to 6 days, which is very less compared to the other markets. So they are getting more opportunities to earn from secondary steel market actually. And because of logistics, we can deliver timely to the customers as compared to the other markets. And we all know that if we get the order today, we are so much capable to deliver it tomorrow, whichever the quantity is. Like I can say for every other secondary steel plant, it is like that. So that's why logistics play a very big role in this market. Thank you.
Yes, Mr.
As far as logistics is concerned, secondary steel is more close to the demand. So we can serve at a cheaper or at a economical logistical prices than the primary steel. But we should also make the government more aware about secondary steel, and government should take initiatives in making dry ports and making rail networks so that we can set up depots in pan India, so that each and every cluster can have their territorial restrictions, like widening their territorial restrictions.
Thank you. this means that secondary steel sector have certainly got many advantages that can be utilized to maximize the market share of secondary steel. Thanks for giving your valuable inputs. My next question is for Akshat Goyalji. Sir, what are some future outlooks and growth strategies for companies in the secondary steel sector?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, surely. So what are some future outlooks and growth strategies for companies in the secondary steel sector?
I think the secondary steel sector is very well placed for an immense growth from here, and the recent history also suggests that as compared to the, let's say, the primary producers, in the past 10 years, we have grown more than they have. We have covered a bigger market share than them. So what used to be around 25 to 30% in secondary sector now is more than 40%, and I think we are moving closer to 50 as we speak. So, and there are a few reasons for that. As Yash and my friend over here have already told us that logistics do play a crucial role, and we are able to provide a much better service than the primary sector. And steel being a very fluctuating market, so it's a very time constraint market as well. If people want to buy steel now at a certain price, they want it now as well, which only the secondary steel can do. So that is one reason why I feel that the growth in secondary steel will improve. Second, I think, is despite being a very fluctuating market, the secondary steel can adapt to these changes much better than the primary steel market. We can enhance ourselves, update ourselves, and even enhance our capacities for that matter much faster and much more efficiently than the primary sector, which is why we have been able to stay competitive till now, and which is why I think we will continue moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My another question is for Ushmesh ji. Sir, how do companies in the secondary steel sector manage credit and finance aspects in their marketing activities?
As far as credit and finance is concerned, we manage our credit and finance through our distribution channels. We give them longer credit period and cash discounts. And if a bank or institution takes an initiative for making our channel, for funding our channels or channel financing our dealer network, it will be much helpful for us to get our turnaround recovery time shorter and expand ourselves from the money that we are getting immediately from the banks or the institutions that are taking these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ushmesh ji. My next question is for Mr. Shabir Soni. Sir, are there any specific emerging markets or regions that the secondary steel sector in India should focus on for export growth?
Part of this was answered by Smith ji. We should target those countries where we have a free trade agreement. I think as we Indians are not being able to capitalize more on the free trade agreements, one of them is South Korea, which sells a lot of HR to the Indian market under the free trade agreement, whereas we are not being able to sell more to that country. So I feel that we as exporters should identify markets where we have a free trade agreement and we can take advantage of the duty-free exports that we would be able to do to that zone. Number one. Number two, we should identify those zones where we feel that in terms of freight, we would be more viable than China. That would give us a price advantage that we would be able to, and we would be able to push more material more into those countries. But more, I think FTAs, those countries with whom we have FTAs like UAE, another one is coming up with Egypt, there is one with South Korea, a lot of FTAs, even Malaysia. But I think because we do not have enough support we are not being able to capitalize on these markets as much as they are doing in terms of steel, not in other products. And yes, emerging markets, we know our limitations, the secondary steel in terms of limitations that we have. So we have to identify markets that would accept our steel, that would accept the steel, the quality of steel that we would have to export.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, secondary steel sector can create its niche and market where they can export their materials.
Correct.
So, we have to maximize our exports.
Yes.
This is our endeavor. Last question from my side is directed towards all three of you. And this is what approvals and certifications are important for companies in the secondary steel sector to enhance their market credibility. We have heard a lot about it in this two days discussion, but I would like that all three of you should add more on it.
As we know that there is a list of approvals and certificates that secondary steel sector has to take. I'll list few of them. Then what problems do we face in that? My colleague will be taking it. So BIS is the first and the basic approval or certification that we have to take. Then ISO 9001, ISO 14001. Now everyone is going green, so we have to take IGBC also, Indian Green Building Council. We have to also, to maintain our quality and show that we make a quality product, we need NABL certification. Then we need approval for NHAI, MMRDA, RDSO. There are some state approvals also, like CM Rice for Madhya Pradesh. We have Mahada Green Pro certification for green steel. We have GSEDCL for Gujarat, GSRDC, MSRDC, and many more like that. And what problems do we face? My colleague Akshat will be taking that question.
So I think the main problems that we face is a lack of confidence. If we talk about specifically the government approvals, so they tell us that, you're from the secondary sector, and so basically they don't know us. It has been 2 years since the Supreme Court has said that you can buy steel from anywhere. There's no secondary or primary. You just have to make sure that the TMT is of a good grade, is of the grade that you want. And in those 2 years, I think in the past 1.5 years, most people have got their approvals done. It has only been around 6 months since the supplies have started to the government sector. And I think that it is their lack of confidence in this sector. They are not able to place their trust in us that we can also deliver them the correct goods and the best quality material, which is why they are a little slow in placing orders to us. But as time goes by, I feel in another 6 months or about a year, the confidence should grow, and I think we can do very well in these sectors. And the approval process also, I think, will improve once that trust builds up.
As far as the list of approvals are concerned, and what my friend Yash has enlisted, each and every department, each and every body, each and every state has its own list of approvals. Each and every project, for that matter, is requiring or requires its own set of approvals for us to provide them steel. Now, if government takes an initiative to make a single window approval process for getting each and every approval, or else make a standard approval procedure, so that one approval is for each and every, like, if a product is approved in NHAI, then why does it needs to be approved in PWD department of a state? It must be already, like, it must be considered as approved. So that will help us a lot. So government must set up a single window approval process.
While we were discussing this topic, Shabbir ji mentioned something for single approval. I would like Shabbir ji to tell about the approval process in Dubai.
Thank you, Yashji. Yes, I was about to say this. In Dubai, in UAE, there is just one approval, which is UK Cares and DCL. Besides this, there is no other approval. So if this one window approval comes in India, it becomes a lot more easier for the secondary steel, to sell its product, to get into any project. Like every project in India has different kind of approval, different set of approvals. Whereas in other countries, there is just one set. Like I said, UAE, even in Oman or even any other GCC country, there is just one approval, the local municipality and UK Cares. So these two approvals make the steel manufacturer's life a little easier, for them to be competitive to quote for a project.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views. Now we will move to the next session, that is on price volatility and market risk. And I will like to hand over the session to my colleague, Mr. Nitish Shukul from Steel Mint.